Welcome to Building My Legacy podcast. This podcast is designed for leaders and entrepreneurs who want to leave a legacy and will provide strategies that focus upon key elements for legacy creation, determining your desired impact and its benefit, increasing your legacy's reach by engaging key stakeholders, planning, prioritizing, and executing. Here's your host, Dr. Lois Sonstegard.
Hi, everybody. This is Lois Sonstegard. I'm here today with Gary Varsho. He's a scout for the Pittsburgh Pirates and a professional baseball player himself. He's played with the Pittsburgh Pirates. And he's here today to talk with us about how does he scout? Because scouting is so much like what we do with talent in the business world when we're looking to hire people. So, Gary, I'll let you say hello, and then we'll get started.
Well, it's a pleasure to be with you again, Lois. You know, it's our baseball season right now, and I'm in full force. And right now I'm in Indianapolis, Indiana, trying to scout the Yankees AAA team. So I just got done finishing a couple reports on players I saw last night. So I'm in full swing. So I'm in scouting mode. So I hope you enjoy this. I hope you enjoyed the information that we can share today.
So, Gary, what fascinates me so much as I've talked with you is the similarities between what you do with scouting and how we look in business for employees. How do we recruit the talent that we need to do the jobs that we really need to get done in our organizations? So can you tell me a little bit about what do you do as a scout and how do you go about it? Because it's fascinating, I think.
Well, this is my 8th year of scouting. And for a long time, I was in uniform as a coach, instructor. And so when you're teaching, I'm a base running outfield hitting guy. And when you're teaching, you want your young pupils to understand situations, the fundamentals, the groundwork of doing certain things. And the game starts, and then you're in compete mode. So we are competing. So you're in the dugout competing. So, and then you analyze the game and you're competing the game and you're looking at the scoreboard and you're trying to get your team to win. Then the next day rolls around and you're back to teaching mode, understanding what did happen well, what didn't happen well. Well, the scouting side of it totally changed your perspective of the game because you are competing with other scouts and other organizations for players per se. But realistically, what I have learned through scouting is trying now to evaluate each player that's on the field. For example, Scranton Rail Riders, the AAA affiliate of the Yankees. My job as I go in here, I have to evaluate all 25 players. When I say evaluate, I evaluate, first of all, their skill sets and what they do and how they could potentially be a major league value. And when I say major league value, we rate everybody on a scale from 20 to 80. 20 being not a prospect, lower level, does not have value at the major league level, to a 50 who is a bona fide everyday major league player, and those players are valuable. If you're a 50 in our scale, you can play on the field every day. Obviously, the scale escalates from 50 to really 70 or 80, however you want to go. But those are guys that are special, the Mike Trouts of the world, the Bryce Harpers of the world, Manny Machado's and the list goes on and on up there. So, but we're really looking for the realistically part where I know who the all-stars are. That's not scouting. Those are easy ones. What scouting really comes down to is this: how can I find value in specific players that may be borderline, probably minor league guys at AAA, they might top out, might have a little big league value. My job is deciphering the middle pack of what does this guy do? How does he do it? Is there value in here? And remember, at a major league level, it's just not 25 players. We need at least 10 more players in the minor leagues that are going to help us in small snippets, which has got probably more value to the Pittsburgh Pirates and other organizations as well that can help in small snippets. So basically scouting comes down to I'm evaluating every player and trying to decipher between what they really are for a major league value scale.
So talk a little bit more about those small snippets, because what you're looking for is maybe, from as I understand it, not necessarily a person who can do everything, but who has a specific, unique contribution that may be small, but it's something you need in order to round out the team so it can be successful. Is that correct?
Correct. So when evaluating players, and again, I've been very blessed of doing a lot of things. I've coached in the big league level. I've coached at the minor league level. I've taught at the minor league level. So the scouting kind of makes it full realm of my portfolio, so to speak, because I've done a lot of this on the field, off the field. So when I'm evaluating a skill set, I'm looking for things. Okay, what does this guy do? And one of the things I always have to look for first is you have to show me a tool. A tool means as a baseball player that's not a pitcher but a non-pitcher. Can he run? Can he hit? Can he hit for power? Can he throw? Can he field? Show me a tool. Because if I don't see a tool within his toolbox, therefore there's no major league value. I mean, when I say a tool, you've got to show me a major league average tool. You have to show me something, and something I can grow off of. So when I see this tool, I'm going, okay, how does this tool apply to the game? Let's say, for example, a guy hits for power, which we're all interested in power numbers, home runs. But the problem is that this tool that this young player has doesn't necessarily parlay a lot in the game. Once in a while, he'll hit a home run, but we'll have 4 strikeouts to every hit he might get, and the strikeouts end up. So does this tool really play well for us in the future? There's also guys that maybe not hit very well, but are very good glovemen that can play shortstop. When you have a shortstop value, you can really play shortstop at the major league level. You have just created value for yourself. You can show me defensive tendencies that show me that, yeah, I can trust you as a shortstop if we needed you at the major league level for a 10-day, 2-week, maybe a month period. So I have to separate the tools and where did these young men fit from a pitching standpoint. And we're always looking for pitching. What does this young man do? Now, again, the people I'm looking at necessarily are guys that are going, they're AAA players. They're going to be in AAA more than they are going to be in the major leagues. But there's certain guys that if we see the tool, if we see a really good pitch and he can show flashes of it, can we get more out of that down the road? And again, he's maybe stuck in an organization where he's been told one thing. And it's interesting, as a player travels from organization to organization to organization, all of a sudden the light bulb clicks and all of a sudden he's in the major leagues. And sometimes he's in the major leagues for more than just a 2-week period. All of a sudden the light bulb goes on. Somebody had said something to him and he's off and rolling and helping a major league club, and actually a winning major league club. So finding the tools first is the most important part. Now, again, I'm going to go into 3 tangents. The next thing is, when I see the tool, is this guy willing to adapt? Is this guy willing to change just enough, or is he athletically inclined enough to change? And I've got to guess. It's an educated guess. Is this guy athletic enough to potentially maybe understand that with a little bit of tinkering, a little bit of whatever it is, hand placement, stance, pitcher slot, wherever the arm comes out of, could he do it? And I'm saying yes or no. So I see a tool, I see it flashes, I see that maybe potentially he can adapt to this. That's another plus. And of course, the third one, which is the toughest one, the willingness. And I think that's one thing you've got to dig deep for. Is this guy willing to work harder? Does he have a willingness to drive to get to the big leagues? And I think that's where the behavioral things come into play, and also talking to other people.
I want to just go back to adaptability for a moment, because part of what you're saying with that is they're willing to change out a skill. You're seeing that skill, if it were adapted, could be useful to another team. But it's also the players being able to hear things as they're being told, so they know how to adapt a strength that they maybe already have, maybe a strength that nobody has really seen, that they've not been able to demonstrate.
Absolutely right. So, for example, we're so caught up in our industry with power pitching. That means guys who throw 94 to 97 to 98. We get all lost in that big power, but we forget the guys who can pitch. Which I mean, they can throw the ball where they want to. It may not have the flash to it, but he can get the job done, and he can do some things that maybe I feel like is a big plus for us as opposed to somebody else not seeing it, because our industry changes a lot. Our industry has gone from pitchability, guys who could command. When I say command, they can throw the ball to either side of the plate with a curveball, a changeup, whatever. We've gotten away from that. We've gotten away from guys. The harder you throw, the better chance you have to make it. And I'm telling you is that it's going to come back full swing. It's going to come back to guys who can pitch. Those are your more successful people. They have an understanding. But again, adaptability. Adaptability is a big one. And when I think you get a different voice, when you get somebody that can get to you and say, you know what you're doing is plenty good. Let's harness what you do well. Let's do your strength. I don't think you're pitching to your strength. I don't think you're hitting to your strength. You're trying to do more than what's really in there. So if we could just get back to the person who you are, and I go back to a saying, know thyself. What do you do well? And so I see what you do well, but you're trying to manipulate everything else, trying to do these other things as opposed to just do this one thing well and master the skill. And you have the other intangibles to go with it. So to me, it's like having a really good boss going, you know what, I see what you do well. And you know what, you don't have to put extra mustard on. You don't have to work so hard. Stay with the course. And you know what, let's just see what happens. And I think what ends up happening a lot of times is when we take the adrenaline out of performing and allow the person to relax and stay at a very level-headed scale with adaptability, understanding that I can do this, trust. Once you trust yourself and knowing you can do this, everything ends up falling into place a little bit. And then you have a way to, when things don't go well, you have a fallback. Look, I need to do this, and this will get me back on track. And again, very hard to do in an adrenaline-flown competitive society. But realistically, the guys who are really good in our game and the organizations that are really good, they look at an employee, they look at a player and going, I see this. This is the picture that I paint. And I see this guy has this player or whatever, could be a female player, whatever, has plenty of strengths. I'm going to take that strength that he has and I'm going to add to it a little bit, understanding that this is his fallback, but I know he can add a little bit more here and there. But I think a lot of people don't understand what I do well. I want to do this well, and I can add to it a little bit. And the adaptability comes back sometimes, Lois, really to what is it you do well, as opposed to trying to do all these other things. Man, you can do this really well. We can add to that once we get this done. So adaptability to me is having a person that's a good listener, can understand what you're talking to them, explaining. Maybe it's a visual, but explaining them what you do well. And we're going to adapt off this strength, you're trying to adapt and doing all these other things as opposed to just keeping it simple. Do what you do well, and we'll adapt off what you have from what you do really do while you're mastering thing, and you can do well off these other components. So, but there's some guys that are just not very adaptable. When I say that, they're not willing. I'm in AAA baseball, and it amazes me today that I see the same players year after year after year, and they're in AAA baseball trying to get to the major leagues level. You have to change. You're not getting to where you're going. You're not staying in the major leagues. You're still in AAA. Why aren't you adapting? And of course, that becomes a red flag for me. When I see this player and he's struggling along, he's got a skill set, can run, can field, can hit a little bit, but it doesn't play at the big leagues. Why aren't you adapting? And that's a big red flag for me, because we have these prospects that come through and they're back in AAA, back in AAA, back in AAA, and saying, well, you need to change. And if you're not willing to adapt and change, therefore, as time goes on, you really become pigeonholed. And all the other skeletons teams see it. He's not willing to change, can't change his stance, can't change his delivery. And all of a sudden you fall into, you're just going to be a AAA player. So when you see people over and over, you get a better feel.
So there's three things you look at: the tool set, adaptability, coachability, but you can't touch these people. You can't see them or talk to them. You can see them. So you are making those assessments off of very nuanced information that you're getting. How do you do that?
Well, so when I go to the ballpark, usually I'm there early when they take batting practice. And so I'm going to come out and I'm going to watch the work ethic of the player for pregame before the game. I'm going to watch if he's out early, if he's out late, how did he stretch? Did he go through the motions? Did he show any energy? Is he dressed correctly? Is he just walking around, moping around? And again, sometimes weather is correlated with it. When it's really hot in the summertime, you're not going to move as fast. I get that. But did this guy take really good ground ball work? Did this guy prepare for the game as well as he should? Did he go through batting practice motion? Is he, and now when I say he, when I watch a player after he gets done taking his batting practice round, is he still working on his stance, and he's so mechanically inclined that he can't flush it out. He just can't. He's constantly working and thinking and thinking and thinking, as opposed to just saying, okay, let me move on. Just their behaviors. And then during the game, players that strike out, and again, it's easy when they're doing well. It's when they don't do so well. This is what I want to see about the person. That I walk out to my position, I get you're upset and I get you're mad. And getting mad and upset doesn't bother me. I mean, that shows me that you care. Doesn't matter. If you throw your helmet and you get pissed off in the dugout, I can take my lens. It depends on what my lens feels. And I'd say, he's got compassion. He wants to compete. I mean, again, it goes back to, I think a big thing is how well or how much do you want to compete? But the behavior will tell me a lot of things. I get the frustration in our game. I get that it's tough. The game is humbling. But the behavioral pregame, during the game, especially after a guy makes an out or something, a bad inning, as opposed to putting my head down and writing my notes, I really try to keep my head up now and watch the person. And again, I'm just learning how to be trained for this, because we have a wonderful person, Chris Johnson, who's in charge of our Pittsburgh Pirate department, from this standpoint, trying to teach us how to understand behavior. Watch the behavior, especially in higher stressful situations. What happens? Another example, when things escalate in the game, can the pitcher slow down? Can he slow himself down and perform, or is he adrenaline flowing? He can't stop, and it's repetitive, and he's out of control. That's a huge red flag. How do you get him to slow down is a very tough thing. When we have bases loaded and one out, and we watch a hitter swing through two sliders that are in the dirt, those are panic ABs, high stressful situations. The guys who usually have the steady heartbeat, can control adrenaline, are going to be your performers. But again, behavioral wise, all things matter. Every time you go onto the field, all things matter. The other part of it is you try to find out. Again, I can't have direct contact with this player. I mean, I can if I can get to him, but chances are security and I can't get down there. So my job is to go up in the booth and ask the radio guy, hey, you're with him all the time. Is he good to you? Does he treat you well? Does he give you good eye contact? And a lot of times when I get a chance to go to the manager of the club, if I can get down to the manager, one of the great questions I thought Chris Johnson brought up to us, he goes, in order to create dialogue, because usually the comment is, hey, what about John Smith? Well, is he a good teammate? Well, that's kind of a vague question. Of course, he's probably a good teammate and all that. But Chris Johnson proposed a question. He goes, hey, what about Joe Smith here? What am I not going to see today? And when he asked me that question, it's like there's a pause. It really makes the other person think, what am I not going to see? Because I know what I'm seeing. What am I not going to see? And not going to see makes it just like, it puts that guy on a pause going, he's got to think through an answer as opposed to a very generic, blasé answer. So you're just trying to ask good questions, trying to find out certain things. But again, Lois, the more you hang around, if you're a 9 to 5, so the game starts at 7 o'clock and they probably end at 10 o'clock. If you're a 7 to 10 scout, you're not going to be a very good scout. What you need to do is get to work early. And you need to find out as much information as you can. Who walks through the door? Who walks out of the dugout? From a business standpoint, who's coming through the door early? Who's got the cup of coffee and who's ready to go and is bouncing around, has energy, says hello to everybody? It's the same thing in baseball. Who's coming out of the dugout early? Who's got energy? Who's got no energy? Who sits at their desk? Who's just going through the motions? It's the same behavioral things. And I'm going, interesting. Now, it's about our lens, how we view it. So sometimes there might be things at home, personal, marriage, children, somebody's sick, I'm not feeling good. Those all come into account. But over a course of time, you kind of get an idea of, you know what, this guy here is a low energy, doesn't bring anything to the game. It's all about himself. Or the guys who go, you know what, as poor as he's going, he runs out to the position, he's into it, he's in for the team, he's hustling, he's communicating. Those are all positive. So again, the more you're around, the more you're a 9 to 5 person, the less you're going to find out about people. The more you're there early and late sometimes, I'm not saying every time, but especially in the morning, you can tell a whole lot about people when they first come out and get ready for their job.
So coachability, you've said that that's one of the most important parts. How do you assess for coachability?
Well,
how is that different from adaptability?
Is this person willing to listen?
Willing to listen.
You have to be willing to listen. So a part of my job is just try to find a staff member from each affiliate. And, to me, it's like I see the same thing let's say it's from a hitter standpoint. I see the same thing. And I would basically ask, I go, is he willing to change his hitting? Because I think he's a really good player. And right away you'll get, yeah, he's a good player, but he really likes this the way he's going. And to me, it's not a coachable. He wants to do it his way. Okay. And that's all I need to know. He's just willing to do it his way. So I try to find a staff member. It's hard sometimes, but again, what you try to do is you network yourself with enough people in the game and the teams that I'm seeing going, tell me about this kid. Is he a good listener? Is he willing? Why doesn't he want to change his stance? Why does he stay with the same thing? And basically the coach will say, well, he really feels comfortable with what he's doing. Okay, we've tried to tell him, but this is what he does. And it's not that he doesn't work, but he's working in a way that's non-productive. And so obviously I'm not so sure he's so coachable. And again, in our industry over time, I do think that we have to be very careful of saying, okay, he's not coachable now, but do you want to play in the big leagues or not? And so when it's amazing in our game, you'll see a player that gets released or gets traded. All of a sudden he does better. Why is that? Another voice, someone else hit the light bulb, or the time is running out, because in Major League Baseball, we have a small window, because basically when we get to 32 years old, if you have any skill set, by 35, sometimes you're done. So you want to stay in the big league. So again, sometimes a different voice. So as an employee, if I try to talk to an employee and if I just can't quite get through to it, I would try another employee, trying a different route with a different tone. And all of a sudden, oh yeah, I get it. A lot of times in our industry, we get so pigeonholed and stereotyping this player and going, but if he was with someone else, all of a sudden we're all astonished in the game going, what happened?
Yeah.
What happened? I didn't see it. What happened? Well, somebody else got a hold of this young man and changed his life a little bit because he was willing to listen. Now, again, it's up to the player willing to listen. And so all of a sudden, now I've got a new lease on life because I wasn't doing very well. And here, somebody showed me something. And again, a new voice, all of a sudden, the light bulb goes on. Somebody shows confidence in me and going, it's just happened to me with the Pirates. When I was in Chicago, I mean, I was kind of pigeonholed as a pinch hitter. And all of a sudden, I got to the Pirates and Jim Leland. We talked about Jim in our previous, he saw something more. And I had the best years of my career. So again, that extra voice, confidence, where you're going can open up. And again, same skill set, but just was willing to work through it and give him confidence in another area going, I am good. I can do some things. Because I think sometimes in baseball, we can get really beat down hard, especially with the same people over and over and over coaching me.
You know, something that you said in terms of when you scout, you talk with lots of different people to get information. It was really sorting out the person's coachability and how willing they are to adapt. So part of what that says to me is it becomes important for the player to let everybody around him know his openness to that, because if he's not communicating that to his current people, that message doesn't get out there.
Well, his message, you know, it's interesting. I don't think the players understand. Look, our players today are kind of self-centered, a very self-centered society, not very good teammates, not very good team players, all about me. And I don't think they really understand the full gist of every people that they interact with comes back to them. A good interview, eye contact, personable. You don't know how far that will go down the road because we're all looking for those intangibles of, you know what, I heard this guy was a real bad person, but I'd also heard this over here. And actually, he's not as bad person as we think. I think they don't understand that everybody they're in contact with, whether it's the front office, with their affiliate, the team president, the radio person who does all the games. I mean, you go up to a radio guy and you go, what do you got on so-and-so? And they go, he's an absolute turd. Awful. Treats me terrible. Puts his headphones on. Every time he sees me, can't say hello. I mean, so it's like so basically it comes down. Here we are, self-centered, all about me, selfish. I mean, it's just terrible. And the other way is very selfless, understands, very cordial, is great. So when we go back to trying to evaluate the person and the willingness and the adaptability, okay, we're trying to put this pie together, this player. There's some negative here. Maybe he's not willing to adapt, but a heck of a person, very good with people, very good with the community. He's out there. He's hustling. So the pie ends up being more positive than maybe this little negative. So therefore, if we were going to acquire this player, if we can get this little piece to add up, maybe we got ourselves a pretty good player. Because again, there are more intangibles of a better person. Anytime we have somebody as an employee, it's the player and the person. Hopefully the head and heart. We have head and heart here, and we have the player here. Can the head and heart match up to a player's skill set? And boy, if we can get that to get him going, we'll have something. And I think our Pirates do a great job of creating a good head and heart. Drive, determination, willingness, adaptability, being a good listener. There are some guys that fall by the wayside. But again, going outside of your arena to try to hire somebody and try to bring them in, the last thing you want to do is bring in an absolute turd to disrupt what you have. And so that's where the person part comes in so big, is personable, understands. He might not have the greatest skill set we're looking for, but he's organized, he's structured. Can we help him along the way? Because if we're not, all your expertise in your field, all the expertise I have in my field, I feel that we can help people along the way to see a bigger picture, as opposed to pigeonholing people right away saying, he can't pitch, he can't do this, he can't do that. Well, I go back to, but there is flashes of things that he can do. But if he's a good person and has a willingness and a drive and he's adaptable, we might be able to get more out of this guy than other people thought. And again, young people today, it's hard to find that person today. Hard to find that person that's willing to adapt and adjust and willingness, because they've all been taught a different way of going about being self-centered. It's about me. It's not about the team. Boy, if you can get them to understand a bigger picture, it's really helps a company. It really helps somebody else. But again, somebody's got to sit back and go, okay, I see what I'm seeing. Interesting. And it's not like you're trying to dive into somebody's personal life. You're just trying to understand a better idea about the person.
Who they are.
Yeah, who they are, what they come from. And that's a big thing. And in order for someone to open up, if I knew something about your past, where you went to high school, where I went to college, is there something in your hometown, whatever it is, I'm going to tell you what, those things go a long way. And our good friend Rich Donnelly talked a lot about this, getting to know a young player. Where's the connection? How can I connect the dots? And once I can connect the dots to something, now it opens up a whole new idea of, I'm going to reach out of these dots and I'm going to go try to connect another dot towards his work performance and how I can get him better and what he thinks about this and is he a good listener. So, I mean, it all works from a small start. But again, I think today's employees or today's executives are challenged trying to find that person and trying to get more out of people and seeing a great skill set that we can help adapt to our company.
We have, our time always goes so fast, Gary. We've been talking for half an hour. It's been just wonderful. I just want to summarize. There's 3 things that you've really talked about. One is skill set. What are the tools that the person has to bring? That's fundamental. That's where you begin. But then comes adaptability and coachability. And those 2 components really being primary, because without that, the skills become less valuable.
Absolutely. I mean, again, what does he bring to the table? What's the tools? Show me the tools. And again, I'm looking at players for 5 games. So I need to see a tool to hang on to. And of course, we have history with some of these players. But realistically, I want to see somebody who wants to change a little bit, especially when things aren't going well. Well, if you're skilled, Lois, and if you get it rolling, those guys are the easy ones. I'm looking for the guys who are willing to change just a little bit. Not this. Small little change. Show me that you're willing to adapt. Show me you're willing to do other things. That's an eye-opener for me. And show me your drive pre-game, during the game. Show me the drive. Show me the passion. Show me the energy. I can work with people like that. It's the guys who don't want to have the energy and, oh my God, look at me, I just lined out and woe is me, my lip is dripping, dragging all over the floor. I have a hard time with that one. I just really do. So again, watching. I mean, I've had to learn how to watch. I've had to learn to observe. I've had to learn to take information and through my lens going, okay, what do I think about that behavior? How do I think what this guy comes in from the bullpen? How is he dressed? Is he look organized, structured? Is he introverted, extroverted? What do I think? Because how he handled certain situations. But again, my lens is different from somebody else's lens. How I interpret behavior.
Why does introverted or extroverted matter?
Because I want to know if you're introverted and you're very there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong. I want to know if you're so introverted that you don't really do well with teammates. You're just kind of in your own world a little bit. So let's just say it's a pitcher, very introverted. He pitches, he walks off the mound, head down, doesn't really acknowledge anybody in the dugout. And again, that could be focus. But here's the interesting part. The next day when they're on the field, is he talking to anybody? Or is he by himself or just with a few small people and standing there? Here's the deal. Just so we know the information. It's not bad. It's not good. It's not bad or good. How do we know? Now you have the other guy who's extroverted, full of energy, talking to everybody, high-fiving. He's into it. He's got a radiant personality. Good or bad, you can use it. But it's just part of the pie. It just tells you, just so you know, this guy's introverted, this guy's extrovert, whatever. Just so we know, this is my feeling, what we have. And so it's not that he's a bad teammate. He's just quiet, reserved, to himself, might be more focused. But those are all parts of it. And again, Chris Johnson, who I rely on a lot, going, it's okay. Mm-hmm. Just so we have an idea of who the whole person is we're talking about. But so again, we're talking about the whole person.
Yeah.
We're trying to figure out the person, and the player is part of that pie. So again, it's helped me keeping my head up. And when I say keep my head up, if you watch me during the game, I'm watching the pitcher and I'm writing a small note, and I put my head down. I'm watching, and then I'll write something. But I've learned to stop looking down and writing quick. I've learned to keep my head up and watch the game more, because you can see more as opposed to always writing notes. And that's what the Pirates have wanted us to do. Keep your head up. So I've learned that after an inning is over and you want to write notes real quick, I'll watch the pitcher come off the mound, and I'll watch in the dugout. What's going on in there? What can I see? What kind of interaction could there be in there? Good, bad, whatever my lens says. And so I've learned to keep my head up and try to really write less and watch more, because the more I watch and more I observe over time, the more information I can go back and say, this is what I'm seeing, really, and this is what I'm seeing. I mean, we have to use our eyes to really judge the whole performance, not just, boy, this guy's got a great fastball and he can command it. There's just so much more to it. So, and anything I think we do, if we keep our eyes open and really watch and really pan the room and really see what we're trying to see, you'll see a lot more than what we just want to see.
Gary, thank you so much. And I know you're going to have a busy day today, so enjoy it. Is the weather good for you?
Yes, the weather's good for me, so I don't have to put my long johns on and a winter coat. So it's been kind of a challenging spring, but things are good. So I'm rocking and rolling here with the Pirates. So hopefully we can win some more games up in Pittsburgh. But I have always enjoyed my time with you and look forward to our next meeting.
Thank you so much, Gary.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Building My Legacy podcast with Dr. Lois Sonstegard. To book your appointment with Dr. Sonstegard, visit www.buildtomorrow.com.